Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you please take your seats at this time as the program will begin momentarily.
Generally speaking, research starts with a question or a problem. This question or problem is usually not yours. It is that of a client or society as a whole. But for you to understand what it is that they need you to research, you must also understand the context of the question or the problem. This, combined with the scope, allows you to formulate your research objective. With context, we mean the circumstances that form the setting for your research. For instance, let's take the example of a request to come up with a solution to reduce noise at airports. This may seem a normal request, but you must examine it more closely. What noise do you need to reduce? That of aircraft or of the cars that are dropping the passengers off? And is it noise that needs reducing at one location, or do they want the noise levels reduced all around the airport? And how soon does the problem need to be solved? How much money are you allowed to spend to solve the problem? You can see from this that you need a lot more specific details on the context of the problem before you can even start to think of how you can research the problem. Context matters and must be formulated clearly, as this forms part of setting the boundaries of your research. You must therefore engage with your client to confirm that you fully understood the context of the problem or question they have before you can start researching. The other thing to take into account when you start to research is the scope. Scope in this case pertains to you and everything you bring to the table. This includes your knowledge, skills and expertise, the time, materials and equipment you have available to you, etc. If you were to plot your scope and research context graphically, you would hope that these areas overlap. This overlapping area is called the research space, the space in which you can perform research to solve a problem or answer a question. With the research space now established, the next step is to formulate a research objective. In a research objective, you demarcate your research and define what you will contribute towards the answering of the question or the problem, and how you will do so. In a simplified formula form, the research objective is A by B, where A is the contribution of the research project to the solution of the problem or the answer to the question posed, which also includes the context. B is a description of the way the contribution will be provided. In general, a research objective must meet the following requirements. It must be useful, realistic, feasible, clear and informative. It should describe how the answers and solutions contribute towards the question or problem and how they benefit the question or problem within the scope defined. The objective should be precise enough and give an idea of the knowledge that will be generated. When formulating an objective, ensure you can answer these questions. Coming back to our example of aircraft noise. A possible research objective could be to investigate if differences exist between the perceived exceedance of legal aircraft noise limits by people living in a 5-mile radius from the airport and the actual exceedance of legal aircraft noise limits by measuring aircraft noise 24 hours per day for the month of August and comparing this data with the filed complaints of exceeding legal noise limits by the inhabitants of the specified area in that month. Research objectives will differ in nature depending on the type of research, theory-oriented or practice-oriented research. The first is aimed at theory development and theory testing. The second concerns research tied to each stage of an intervention cycle, used when solving operational problems. Those stages are problem analysis, problem diagnosis, design or redesign, intervention and changes, and finally evaluations. Much of the research in engineering is usually tied to solving or understanding operational problems and questions at one of the stages in this intervention cycle, where you aim to go from a current undesired situation to a desired situation.